it's been a while since I did a product review, but I'm gonna start reviewing tarot cards because I have a million decks. So this one is a Fallout tarot deck, and I've got a couple of other decks that are kind of post-apocalyptic or even like a dystopian theme. And one of those is another licensed name. So it's cool that they're using these pop culture stories to make decks, and I want to review several like that. But I think this one just came out this year, so it's really new. And I'm going to basically show all the cards and talk about them. Alright, so we're taking a look at the Fallout official tarot deck. It's heavily themed around Fallout 4, so if you've played that game, you will recognize a lot of the characters, even on the cover. You'll recognize, of course, the dog meat, and the others. I forget his name, he runs a town. But all of these characters from Fallout 4 are on the deck cards. And this is a fresh opening, so all I did was unwrap the box and, open it as is. So the first thing you see is a ribbon and a book. Usually they include the ribbon to where you can pull it out, like pull your stuff out. So the cards are in there. The book is substantial, like it's nice and thick. It says do not push on the back, like a button. So most of the time these kits that come with a book like this, it usually explains tarot. This has good graphic design. It's definitely themed after the game. So it's going through the major arcana first and then the minor, I'm assuming. But it's full color. A lot of time these books are smaller than this, and they're usually just black and white, mostly text. So this book actually has the card art, and it looks pretty good. Oh yeah, that guy's name was John Hancock. He's the mayor of Good Neighbor. I couldn't remember. I knew he was the mayor of a town, but he's a ghoul, so he's undead or half dead. I don't know how they're considered. But yeah, so it's cool. It's got all the characters from the game. I think what I'll do is go through the cards and maybe look at a few of these to read them. There's the suits, which it looks like they didn't do the traditional suits. It also looks like they didn't do the meanings. Usually there's, like, some decks have card art for, like, the Two of Swords. In this one, they did not do the art with, like, humans that tells the story of the meaning of that card. They did what I call the lazy way, which is just for Three of Swords, you show 3 swords. For 4 of Swords, you just show 4 swords. They're calling the swords steel in this deck. But traditionally, like, the 3 of Swords normally shows 3 swords through a heart, representing, like, a love triangle. Like, it definitely normally shows more detail to explain the meaning of the card. And here, you can see you lose that. You just get card art. And one good thing they did is they didn't just use one sword image and paste it. They actually have different swords from the game, so at least they put that effort in. Lanterns, swords are called steel. So this is not traditional. Then they've got tarot readings in the back that has, like, probably some spreads. Yeah. We could try one of those, or just do a 3-card spread at the end. But I like this post-apocalyptic theme, which Fallout has always had that theme. I have, like I said at the beginning, I have some other decks kind of like that. And I think it'll be fun to do, like, a dystopian or post-apocalyptic reading one day. I want to start doing card readings. Like, I have a ton of decks. My main channel doesn't really focus on any of that. I just do random stuff on it, so I think I'm gonna have to start, like, a channel just for tarot. But if you pull the ribbon, it lifts up the deck and you can pull it out. So this is the back. Let me take the box away real quick. So this is the back. I already like the design. They aged the cards so you can see on the edge it's got that weathered peeling, like a print job that's peeling off a book or something. So they did aging on them. That's cool. And I'm assuming they're going to go in order. Like most decks are laid out in order when you first open them. So we can just kind of go through them. I'll try to get it closer to the camera. I may have to stand up for this. Yeah. Okay. So we've got the Fool. It's like a guy exiting the vault. If you don't know the game lore, it's about an alternate World War II era where basically there's an atomic war and everyone either dies or lives in these bunkers that they paid for, or they paid for a spot in. And so in the games, you exit a bunker into this post-apocalyptic wasteland and you try to survive. But it's themed after kind of a I can't remember if it's 1920s style art, but it's basically old-timey art. The whole game has some humor, but also like this old-timey art style that's kind of funny, and some other darker themes. So it mixes humor, dark themes, and old style technology and art with like a slightly modern, futuristic slant. It kind of mixes it all. It's hard to explain, but if you play it, you know what I'm talking about. So card number 2, the Magician. Well, technically it's number 1 because Fool is 0, but we'll go in order. Number 1 is the Magician. They literally just showed the Vault Boy mascot, or Vault Tech mascot, which is Vault Boy, I think, doing a magic trick. So that's a little simple. Like the traditional Magician card is literally like a person manifesting what they want. So it's kind of like a funny version of that. The High Priestess is represented by Piper, who's a news girl in the game. She works for like a news agency. Which I guess the High Priestess represents having knowledge that others don't, like maybe researching. I kind of see Piper fitting that theme. So they kind of got that right. Card number 3, the Empress, is actually represented by an android, or a synth is what they call them in the game. Actually, I'm wrong. Synths are androids that look human-like, like they're synthetic humans. This is more like a straight-up robot, but I think there are female androids that are in the game, so it's sort of like an Empress. I don't really get the Empress meaning from this. I guess we could take a look at the book on some. I'll go through them fairly quick, but just to get an idea for how they word these cards that are less clear, let's see what they say for Empress. Like, just out of curiosity, there it was. So they say the Empress is both the ruler and nurturer, ensuring that her domain and citizens prosper. Pam exemplifies these traits in an unusual way, for she is neither mother nor ruler. Through her programming, she can calculate future events with startling accuracy. She uses this ability to help the railroad and their just cause of saving synths from the Institute. Will you be inspired to nurture that which you care for? Yeah, so that does fit with both the game world and some of the traditional Empress meanings. So I get it, but for someone who's not familiar with both tarot and the game, this card would visually is kind of confusing, but it does make sense. They also have the upright or the reversed meaning, because when you do tarot, some people like their deck to be completely mixed up, upside down or right side up, and so upside down is reversed meaning. I actually keep mine all right side up because it's too confusing for me. But at some point I will start reversing some of mine, like mixing them up. So upright, it says the Pam ensures the railroad's missions are carried out with little chance of failure and that they remain protected from the Institute. You have followed her good example, ensuring
that all you care for shall prosper under your attention. This may be within your family, career, or community. Look forward to seeing some sweet fruits of your loving labor. So yeah, they do make these fit with traditional tarot somewhat. Um, I'm going to be tempted to read all the ones that I'm confused when I see, but I know that'll make the video take forever, so maybe we'll just go through the deck now fairly quickly, and then we'll maybe look at more meanings. There's the Emperor, represented by John Hancock. I like his pirate-looking hat, or what do you call that? It's not a pirate hat, but it's a three-point hat from like pre-Civil War era, I think. It's kind of weird because that style of clothing is actually predating even the Fallout timeline. It's very traditional. But I like the art on his. It looks pretty interesting, and it gives you Emperor vibes. Number 5 is the Hierophant, and they used Mr. What is his name? I forget. It's a robot that's like a defense and a helpful, almost like a maid or a butler, but it can fight. But that it upholds traditional, like the rules that it's programmed by, so that kind of fits with the Hierophant, because Hierophant is based on traditional rules and ways of life, like religious almost. So yeah, still works, it fits. This is card number 6, the Lovers. They chose an interesting way to represent it. He's at like a tombstone with a little soldier figure on top. Could be implying that his lover was a soldier, maybe? I mean, they leave it deliberately vague so you read into it how you want, but that's an interesting way to depict the lovers. It's kind of odd. But I like it. It's different. The Chariot, number 7. This character in the game is the leader of a resistance group. And the Chariot represents having to take leadership of your life and make choices, like choose between two paths. So he does fit for that, so they did good there. Strength is represented by a super mutant, which are just mutated people in the game, or creatures. They went with the really blatant representation of strength, literally just a big, strong orc-looking dude. So, I mean, it works, but generally strength is represented by a beautiful, frail woman prying a lion's mouth open, showing that even if you aren't physically strong, you can have strength. So this is more like a literal strength. It's kind of losing the traditional meaning there. Then we've got the Hermit. It's another super mutant, but he's keeps to himself, I guess, and works on scientific things. So it represents, doing inner work or private work. That does fit with the Hermit. And the Hermit usually has a glowing lantern, so they used a glowing test tube of goo. Kind of works out, I guess. You got the Wheel of Fortune, represented with... In the game, this is an old lady that's part of the resistance group, but she has a chemical addiction. She can see the future, supposedly, but it only works if she's on drugs. So she keeps asking you for drugs in the game. That's what those inhalers are around her. They're a type of drug. So actually in the game, you can accidentally cause her death if you keep giving her chemicals. But the game lets you choose if you do that or not. But yeah, it's interesting that she represents the Wheel of Fortune. Maybe because in the game she's a fortune teller or she's able to see the future. But normally the Wheel of Fortune represents, literally the cycle of good things coming your way, or possibly the end of good things if it's reversed, I guess. So this is kind of a weird one, but it does still kind of make sense. So I can tell they put thought into these. They didn't just randomly select images. Justice is represented by... I don't remember the names. It's been years since I played this, but this guy's a detective. And so he does sort of uphold justice in a way in the game. He also, there's a twist to his plot later where you find out he's not actually human, he's a synthetic human. So I don't know if that plays into the card meaning here, but he does fit with justice. Then we've got the Hanged Man, represented by a synth that was part of an add-on to the game, a story about a synth that it's like a powerful AI, I think, living in this synthetic body. But the Hangman represents tough choices, seeing things from a different perspective. So I guess that character kind of fits. It's harder for me to get it, but if we read the book, it'll probably explain it. Then you got Death. They went with the comical Vault Boy mascot version of Death, so it looks kind of goofy. It makes Death seem, so playful. It's kind of a weird one. Then we've got Temperance. They used the robot again that he sort of is Temperance in a way. He balances between taking care of things. He's also defensive or aggressive if agitated or if the person he's protecting is harmed. I don't know if that's what they're trying to say here. It's a pretty artwork though. I like the way it looks just in general. The Devil, I don't remember this character, but I'm guessing he was a bad character. Maybe I haven't come across him in the playthrough I was doing, but I'm assuming he represents either evil or temptation, since that's the devil's kind of addiction, temptation, hurting yourself through your own poor choices. So maybe he represents that. The Tower, they used just a generic heroic figure from there's a group in the game that are like, they're almost like the Templar. They're like the Holy Templar, except they wear mech suits. That's sort of how, they're like the Iron something, I forget their name. But they're sort of a group that thinks they're doing good, but they also can be aggressive to anyone that's not part of their group. So I don't know. Guess for the Tower, that's a little odd because the Tower represents unexpected things happening rapidly, usually not pleasant, which he is kind of storming something there, so maybe that's why. I don't know. Then we have the Star. I don't remember this character either. I think she's part of the Resistance group, the Underground Railroad people. Or they're just called the Railroad, I think. But I don't remember. So it's hard to tell. But it seems odd for the Star, because the Star's a very positive card, and she looks sad almost. I'll have to read the book on that one too. The Moon. It's definitely got Moon vibes because it's secretive. It's in the dark and she's sneaking around with some kind of shotgun, it looks like. I don't recognize the character from the game, unfortunately. Like, I vaguely do, but it's, like I said, it's been probably 4 years since I played it. Dogmeat is representing the sun. In the game, he's a companion dog you can have. They did make the image very happy and cute and bright. The normal sun shows a baby riding on a horse, I think. So maybe the doll represents the baby this time. It's sort of like youthful, happy bliss. It's one of the more positive cards. And this card does feel positive, at least. Judgment. This one's an odd one to me. He's just playing with a toy. He looks kind of sad. I guess I can't remember how his character represents Judgment. He's got similar hair to me, though. I comb my hair to one side, kind of like that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to read the book on that one. It's because I don't recognize the character, it's hard to tell what that means. Card number 21, The World. They just used an environmental picture. Doesn't really represent the world to me, the way that the card does. It's a little disappointing there. Maybe the meaning in the book will explain, but I kind of wish that had a better... That one's probably my least favorite, how they portrayed it so far. It looks good, though. The art looks good. It's just doesn't feel like the world. So now we're getting into the suits. And they did them in reverse. Normally you start with the ace card and go up to kings, but they're going from king backwards, it looks like. And they didn't explain what suit these are representing, so we just had to guess. Maybe muskets is equal to wands. They're blue, so maybe water is what they represent. I'm talking about with traditional tarot. But anyways, so we've got King of Muskets. You got the Queen of Muskets. That woman looks very militant enough that she looks almost like a guy. Just very scruffy. Battle worn, I guess. Then we've got the Knight of Muskets, literally in a coffin. It's interesting. You got the Page of Muskets. It's one of the mech suit, iron suit people. And now we're just in the actual muskets. So we've got ace. They're going to go up, I guess. 2 of muskets, 3 of muskets, 4. You can kind of just... These are so bland, you can just literally, you know... Don't think you need to see them all, really. Nothing unique there. Then we've got the King of Synths. So synths are how they're representing a whole suit. Interesting. The color is pretty similar to those other ones, so I can't really tell what element these are connected to. But we got King of Synths, Queen of Synths, Knight of Synths, Page of Synths, and then synths look like this when they don't have human skin on. They're sort of like machines with organic organs, or synthetic organs rather. They're half machine, half organic. I do like how they used rows of them, like they're being cranked out of a factory to represent each number. But it's a little lazy as far as design and representing the meaning. Like, there's no way to tell meanings on all this. You just have to memorize it or use the book. So that's a little disappointing. Now we're on King of Steel, Queen of Steel, Knight of Steel, Page of Steel, and then steel is the swords, so at least we have different swords. I like that Chinese Tai Chi style sword. They've got a mechanical sword, some old school fencing style swords. So at least there's a little variety there. That one they just used like a ghosted image of the sword. 9 of Steel. This sort of at least has some difference to it. It's not plain. They got a little creative. Now we're on the last suit, the Lanterns. King of Lanterns, Queen of Lanterns, Knight of Lanterns. That guy looks so generic. Page of Lanterns. And then we've got actual lanterns. And they did use different art for some of them, like a bottle with a light in it, candle. So I like that. It gives some atmosphere to them at least. These probably represent fire, I'm guessing, because they're red and they're literally have fire in the lantern. And so we're basically at the end. This is the last one, 10 of Lanterns. So, you know, it's a pretty cool deck overall. I'm disappointed in the suits being the way that they are. But it's okay, like, it's still a nice deck. The cost is a little high. I believe it was $27.50, about $28. Most decks nowadays are like $21 to $25-ish. So it's just a few dollars more, but it's because it's licensed. It actually has a really nice book. I'm pretty happy with the book. The artwork is good. Oh, Codsworth is the name of that robot. I couldn't remember his name. The model of the robot is called Mr. Handy, but Codsworth was that specific robot's name. So let's see what the Lovers was about, because I'm confused by the art. It says it represents balance between two opposing factors, such as the outer and inner aspects of life. Robert McCready. Oh, okay, I do remember him. and his wife, Lucy, represent the desire to obtain balance. When Macready meets Lucy, he decides to be a better man and live an honest life, whether it be a romantic relationship or the desire to simply find balance. There's much we can learn from the lovers. Yeah, in the game, he starts out as a guy who's kind of, I think he works for a bad group, but when you meet up with him, you start helping each other, and he eventually becomes decent. Like, he's a good guy, but he was just with a group that was bad, if I remember right. So if the card's upright, it says, when Macready meets Lucy, he leaves behind his life as a gun for hire and starts a family with her. Through that relationship, he learns to find balance within himself. You may find yourself in a similar harmonious relationship. This may be found within someone you care for, or a new hobby, profession, or community. Be cautious that you do not allow temptation to lead to overindulgence as you maintain this harmony. So it does fit the story behind it, or connected to it, fits the lovers. But you definitely have to either know that by memory or read it in the book. So for someone who's new to both this world and tarot, you're going to need the book a lot. Even I can see me needing the book for at least like half the cards. So to me, that's not a big deal, because I like to take like an hour in an evening, sit down, do a spread, and like read these entries really slowly and just relax. It's like a good way to wind down. So I don't mind having to read the book. I have a lot of tarot books I use when I do a reading. So, you know, like that, I don't mind it that way, but that's a warning if you don't want to do a bunch of reading when you do a spread. I have a feeling only people who like Fallout and Tarot will get this, and that's a slim, there's not a lot of crossover between people who like Tarot and people who like Fallout. I feel like it's a risky move for them to make this deck, but when I saw it at the store, I definitely had to get it. So, I'm almost at the end, I think. I just wanted to read the one for the drug addict character, Mama Murphy. So the Wheel of Fortune warns us that fate is often out of our hands. Mama Murphy knows this truth more than most in the Commonwealth. She uses her sight to see things that were, things that will be, and even some things that are right now. However, despite her best intentions, she cannot change this fate. Will Mama Murphy bring you good tidings, or will she foresee your misfortune? If it's upright, it means Mama Murphy sees good fortune in your future. Look forward to a stroke of good luck or sudden success. However, it is always best to be prepared for the unexpected, even when it brings us good tidings. Good fortune can be increased by our preparations. So yeah, it's still kind of fitting, but it's such an odd character to use for Wheel of Fortune, but it does make sense, especially since you can see the future, but she can't necessarily change it. And the Wheel of Fortune is definitely a fate type of card, so that fits with the meaning of fate, really. And also the idea that you should always be prepared for the unexpected. So yeah, I like that. It does fit, but like I said, I had to read the book to get it. So, Oh, and for the suits, they do a lot smaller representations. So, like, they write a little less for them. But that's how the suits always get treated. No one writes as much about them. But yeah, I like this deck. I think, like I said, it's a little pricey, but not that much more than other decks. It's just, you do get a nice box. You get the thick book with color prints, and it's actually large. Like, some books are about half this size. They're like the size of a credit card sometimes. So it's a really nice book. The card art is good and well thought out. The only complaint I have about this is on the suits. They did, fairly lazy way of just, showing the suits as objects. But I will say they put some effort into using different images, because some decks will just they'll take a lantern and copy paste it. If it's 4 of lanterns, they would just paste it 4 times. So here they did some graphic design and laid out different art on each card, despite them still being all lanterns, or whatever the suit is. So it's not totally lazy. It's somewhere in the middle. Like, they could have done better, but they could have done a lot worse too. Overall, I say it is worth it if you're a fan of Fallout, or if you want a tarot deck that's kind of like got a post-apocalyptic feel with some interesting characters and art. So it's good. It's a good overall. I would still recommend it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and be looking forward to a bunch of deck reviews, because that's my goal. I've got to review every deck I have. Alright, until next time, see you guys later.